Hey, happy fall. In the mountains, that means it's shoulder season where our trails are either frozen and snowy or muddy. There isn't enough snow to ski yet, but our gravel riding can be really fantastic. It just might be cold. And so, any given day here, it's between about 30 degrees and 60 degrees. Often, the temperature spans that and back through the day, 30 in the morning up to mid 50s, back down to 30 by sunset, which is so early right now. And so, for me to be able to get out, my system for how I layer and stay warm but not overheat and carry my stuff is so important. So in this video, we're going to talk through layering for those warmer shoulder season days, like 50 to 60 degrees, those mid temperatures of like 40 to 50 degrees, and then how to get out on your bike for those days that are just above freezing, and stay warm, not get hypothermic, and also not overheat in the whole range of conditions that you can encounter on a bike ride this time of year. This whole system that I have sorted out over the years is really based on the premise of layering. Layering is a really key part of staying warm and dry in cold and very cold temperatures, and even cool. And so the idea is that you have thinner layers so that when you're warm and working hard and sweating, you're not sweating into all of your layers, making all of your layers wet. And then you have layers to add for each change of degrees or conditions, from sun to shade to going slowly on your gravel bike to ripping down a huge pass to gaining elevation and losing elevation and being in those dark, cold canyons and shaded forest roads. And then, of course, there's the sun factor where there just isn't very much of it this time of year. So I'm going to talk you through all the different layers that I bring in those systems for those different temperature ranges, and then also how I carry all that stuff, because you don't want to just be tying it around your waist or your neck or having it all stuffed into your jersey pockets with your food. You could probably sweat through those as well. And so I have a whole slew of small Revel 8 bags that I bring. They're like bikepacking bags, but just on a smaller scale, so that I can easily delayer and store my stuff in a waterproof way, and then get it back out when I need it. And so we'll talk through seat bags, little frame bags, little cargo bags. I think my favorite, the Stoat, just so versatile, and how I'm carrying different pairs of gloves, buffs, different shoe systems, different jackets, different pant and top layering systems. So, hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments. And of course, with anything, like, this is very personal. Like, this is all based on how my body runs, which is generally pretty warm while moving. I cool down really fast, and my hands and feet are generally cold. So, here we go. All right, it is warm, sunny, bluebird day. The temperatures are 50 to 60 degrees. So, what I'm heading out with is I am wearing a thin Rafa jersey with a Rafa vest over it. This vest is pretty baggy in the back, so there's a lot of room to be able to put things in my pockets and have the vest still fit over the jersey. And then on my bottoms, I just have a thin pair of Rafa tights, a pair of wool socks, and my Shimano S-Fire shoes with plastic bags over my toes. I have pretty chilly feet, so 50 to 60 degrees. I want some sort of wind block, and that plastic bag just helps me keep my feet warm. I don't have very sweaty feet. If you did, that would be a concern or something to consider. You could put an alternative to the plastic bags, could just be toe covers. I'm also heading out with a wind jacket because on a big descent in the shade at like 50 degrees, I'd be chilly, so I'd want to have a wind jacket. It's perfectly in my Revel 8 Nook, and that's going to live in there with some tools. And then I'm leaving with 2 pairs of gloves, just a kind of thicker Rafa ride glove all season that I'll primarily wear. And then I have a really thin soft shell glove that is synthetic and just slightly more wind blocking, again, for that cooler descent, which I may not end up having today, but I'll have them with me. And those can either live in my pocket, or they can get tucked into the Revelate nook, or they can just live with my food down in the jerry can. So this ride's pretty simple. The key is being able to be not too hot when it's 60 degrees, so I'd be down just in these base layers with all my layers in pockets or bags, and then as it's cooling down or I'm going down a descent, I can put the layers back on. Now in the temperature range of 40 to 50 degrees, this can get a little trickier because 50 is still pretty warm, 40 is starting to be cooler for sure. And so for riding in that upper end, like the 45-50 degree range, I'm in a similar kit as I was for the warmer ride, but I have a Rafa Protein midweight jersey, which is waffled. And so this is a lot more insulating than the thinner jersey, the lightweight jersey. And in addition to otherwise the same tights, vest, shoes with plastic bags, wool socks, gloves, I have my wind jacket. I'll probably, if it's when it's down between 40 and 45, I'm probably wearing this pretty steadily, consistently. And then the trick here for this range for me are keeping my hands and feet warm. And so I'm going to be quite comfortable and warm pedaling in 40 to 50 degrees in these clothes. But in my Revelate Stoat, I have warmer gloves. These are a Black Diamond Windstopper soft shell glove that are fleece lined. And I have a lot of dexterity with these. So they're very comfortable for riding. They block the wind and they keep my hands warm. And so I have these. The key to these is that also having a thinner pair of gloves, because I don't want to sweat in my gloves. As soon as you get your gloves sweaty from wet and sweaty, then your hands are going to have a lot harder a time staying warm. So as soon as my hands warm up and start to feel warm, I put on the less warm gloves and then tuck those away for when they get cold again. And then the key for my feet is having my booties also in the Stoat. And so I could either leave the door wearing these and then again take them off if my feet start to sweat, or if I'm heading out in the afternoon, it's going to cool down. I have my kind of fleece lined neoprene, very stylish pink Rafa booty or overshoes, and these are easy to pull on. I do take my shoes off, and so this is something that I kind of want to transition once in the day. So these are awesome. Between the soft shell gloves and the fleece line booties, I have the ability to really add a lot of warmth to my hands and feet, which is a huge part of staying warm on gravel bikes where we go a lot faster and have a lot more of a wind chill because of that. So you may be asking, like, well, what if I'm in the range of like 45 to 55 degrees? It's really just a hybrid of this system, like figuring out, do you need to be able to keep your hands a little warmer and your feet a little warmer for that earlier start? And if so, just bring something like this and maybe it'll warm up to 60, but having a bag like the Revelate Stoat where you can just easily stuff these things in when you're done with them will be a huge space saver, because you don't really want to be riding with wet, muddy booties in your jersey pocket. And if you're out for that kind of ride, you probably need space for your food and phone and your other gloves and, you know, all those things. So next we will talk about the harder conditions, which is when it gets even colder. So now I'm talking about the temperature range that is the hardest for me to motivate to get out, because 30, 32, we'll say 32 to 40 degrees is cold. It's just above freezing. And with the speeds that you can carry on a gravel bike, the wind chill can make it feel quite chilly. And then if the sun's not out, or if you're on a shaded road, that can be quite a cold experience. And so my system is one very much based on layering, so that I can delayer as I'm climbing in the sun and really generating quite a bit of warmth, to descending at 30 miles an hour in the shade and being able to still stay warm. So with this system, I still have the same base layers on that I had for the 40 to 50 degree range. So, and then under my wind jacket, I have my wonderful Rafa vest. Both of these fit over my jersey, the Pro Team midweight jersey that's waffled on the inside. I can still have pockets full of food and my phone and other little layers. And these still zip up. That part's key, is still being comfortable. So a lot of my winter layers are like one size bigger than I wear in the summer, so that I can have things against my body. Even like a hydration pack. Well, it's good to put that underneath these layers if you were to be wearing one of those, which I do sometimes. And then under my ride pants, I still have these same Rafa tights. And then for this temperature range, rather than wearing like a fleece pant, I really like just putting like a mountain bike ride pant over my tights, because they cut the wind a bit. They add a tiny bit of warmth by cutting the wind, but they're not thermal. That's when I get the coldest, is when I've gotten sweaty and then I get a chill from it. So the layering system lets me take off the layers before I'm sweating through everything. Taking all these layers off can end up being quite a bit to carry. So I've added my Red Light Designs shrew, which this is currently very compressed. And I have even more layers in here, but I could add my pants easily. In this temperature, I'm probably not taking off my booties, but I could and fit those in there. And then my wind shirt, my wind jacket, and my vest are going to go into my Nook, which right now just has a thin pair of gloves, because again, if I'm climbing and my hands start to sweat in my warm gloves, I want to be able to take those off and not sweat through them. Have a thinner pair of gloves. And then currently in my shrew, I have another warm pair of gloves. If there was any chance of precipitation, or if there was more time in that 30-degree range, I'd have the warmer gloves and then the thinner soft shell gloves, and probably even a thin liner glove. And then what I also carry on these rides, especially if there's significant amount of time in the below 35-degree temperature range, is a really thin insulating layer. This one's synthetic. This is like an ultralight nano jacket. It packs down pretty small. Also, an insulated vest could also be an option. But this is to be able to stay warm in colder temperatures on long descents, or in those coldest canyons, or even like if I were to be heading out and the sun is starting to go down. And that's when I'm going to need this layer. The other consideration that we should be thinking about, especially if you're on longer rides, farther from home, farther from help, or just other people, is if you had mechanical or just had to take care of something, would you be able to stay warm if you were stopped for a little while in a colder spot? And so this is a temperature range where it is a lot harder to stay warm on your own with just these active layers on. And so having an insulated layer is really good personal liability insurance. And then with the the shrew, it's really easy to just open up, stuff what I need in here. Inevitably, there's just more transition time with layering and delayering, but it's really worth it. Like, just eat a snack, drink your water. Those things are harder to do anyway when your hands are cold or when you have less dexterity just by wearing thicker gloves. And so taking the time to just move your layers, put them in their bags, and be wearing the right layers is really going to make a huge difference in your ability to have fun while out riding in the shoulder season. One last consideration for those with cold feet, just myself included, for those rides that are getting closer to freezing, really under 40 degrees, another option is the Shimano winter shoe. It's an MW702. They call it a mountain bike winter shoe, but it's I wear this in the shoulder season. I size up so that I can wear a thicker wool sock, which is one of the bigger differences that makes than my normal all season cycling shoes. You really don't want your feet to be constricted by stuffing thick socks into a shoe that fits for thinner socks. That will only cut off your circulation and make your feet colder. So if you're getting to a point with overshoes or plastic bags where your feet just aren't staying warm, just get a dedicated winter shoe, size up a size or a half a size, get thick winter socks, and then your feet are going to be really happy. They're more insulated, there's less ventilation, they're more waterproof, and they have a higher ankle to keep mud and road spray out. And so this is an ideal option for the shoulder season solution for keeping your feet warm. Other options for carrying your layers that are great and could be added to this system, especially if you're having to carry more layers like a rain jacket or rain pants, would be the Revelate egress pocket. This straps to the handlebars. My extra small frame is a little small with my head tube and stack height for this, but on my mountain bike I can fit this, and pretty much anyone taller than me would fit this on their gravel bike. And this pocket is very easily accessible. It's just strapped to your handlebars and then it unrolls. It's waterproof and you can just stuff layers in here, or other things like your camera, some other snacks. So that's one great additional way to have quick access storage for your layers. And then the Revelate Stoat that I carry on for fewer layers in my as a seat bag, if I wanted more room with this waterproof bag while also using another seat bag like the Shrew, I can set this up to be on my down tube. And so the Stoat can set up like a down tube bag as well. And that can be a great place to put those overshoes or other gloves or a rain jacket. And then, of course, if I were carrying more food than I was fitting in my jerry can in my pockets, I would just add a mag tank right here. And I do that. That's a very easy bag to take on and off, and I do that pretty much daily.